professional background is that I have been working with Family Services Agency for the past 5 years in a capacity of child protections. So it's a bit more intense than, say, the average family counselling. However, in private practice, I do family counselling, and I do specialize with special needs. I started off as a behavior interventionist with a little autistic boy. I stayed with him for 5 years and followed through into the school system as a special education assistant. Taught me patience like I didn't know I had, and compassion. I didn't really understand those two things until I worked with someone so vulnerable and someone nonverbal. And so I ended up working with him. He really changed just, I guess, how I viewed the world too. So he was a huge impact on my life. And then I decided I wanted to do a Master's of Counseling. So I pursued that route and ended up kind of specializing in loving, couples and relationship and anxiety therapy. And after I got my master's and realized I was starting in the counseling world, it was just briefly after that where I was like, I think I really also want to specialize in trauma. There was something about it that I really liked. So I was like, what kind of postgraduate training can I do that's actually concrete? So that's why I did the clinical traumatology certification. So I find it so helpful in my sessions with my trauma clients. So counselors who don't have the same kind of training, they don't have the specific terminology or the model that I use, which is the triphasic model of recovery. And so I'm able to educate my clients even before doing that work, which a lot of times is helpful. They're like, oh, I had no idea that that's what goes on in my brain when I experience trauma, or didn't recognize that it's not something that just goes away and I do have to deal and process it. But I often get clients who need a little bit of reassurance before we begin any type of trauma work. What's interesting is that almost all of us have had some form of trauma experience, whether it's physical trauma, emotional trauma, more intense trauma. And so for that, I always normalize a little bit of the situation. What I love about counseling, what makes me so excited to continue to do this on a daily basis, is the people that I work with, hands down. Part of the theoretical background that I use specifically for trauma is the triphasic model of recovery. For couples, therapy, and relationships, that's a lot of work that I did through research in my master's program, as well as some Gottman's theory and acceptance and commitment theory. I am very solution focused and strengths based. I make sure that my sessions are client centered. So to be more specific is you kind of come into the room and you decide what you would like to work on. We set out some concrete goals, and I establish a couple routes that we could go down in terms of conversation, but ultimately you get to choose what you'd like to focus on. So that is the beauty and the flexibility of counseling. For my stress and anxiety clients, there's a lot of mindfulness that we talk about, and also some cognitive behavioral therapy, which is quite standard across all practicing counselors. Typically, the demographic of clients that I do see are clients experiencing trauma, relationship issues, couples together, as well as stress and anxiety clients, also families, and families particularly with special needs. I normally see clients around the ages of young adulthood all the way into past retirement age. That's the kind of demographic that I specifically work with. There's different types of counselors out there, and the person that you are as a client will try to find their best match with a counselor. If you were looking at me, what would make me a little bit different from other counselors is that I do have a bit of a harder edge. Tears are more than welcome, but I'm also a counselor who can, follow through with the goals that you set, keep you on track, also maybe push you in ways that you didn't think that you'd want to go, but realize that maybe they were in your best interest. I always do have a brakes mechanism on me, and I'm always receptive if you don't want to go a specific direction in talking, but some people do need a little bit more encouragement on the therapeutic front, and I'm that counselor. And when I do that and I see how they react and they're okay with it and it actually turns out really great, I'm thinking, okay, I know where to go with this person. It's going to be really helpful that I'm not a little bit more of that rock that's pushing them in that direction. Here's the big part too of my philosophy as a counselor. And I know it might sound a little ludicrous, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of clients come to counseling because they want to be happier. I don't think I've ever had a client who's come in through the door who hasn't wanted to make changes in their life, even on a small scale or some on a much larger scale, but finding what part of their life they do want to make those changes or better themselves, and actually just supporting them and helping them get there on their own makes it really, really fulfilling.